Okay, hello everyone. We're going to be discussing, as I said, link rot and broken link building. So I just want to say thanks for taking the time out to go through this with me, and obviously thank you to Kaboo for inviting me. So we'll go ahead and get into it. What exactly is link rot? Just a rule on the same page. So the official definition, which I googled just before, it's kind of an academically accepted concept, but it describes instances where hyperlinks on individual websites point to other pages that have become permanently unavailable. But we all know the internet moves so fast, and I think obviously sometimes it can't keep up with itself. So whether it's changes to page structures, for a multitude of reasons, websites are constantly changing, and links to web pages no longer work. Link rot's a surprisingly big problem. I think according to certain sources, nearly 50% of links cited in US Supreme Court rulings don't actually work. And somebody did some research and they found that every single company in the S&P 500 had at least one broken link on their website, with an average of 2.4% of their links not working properly. And obviously on large websites with millions of pages, that's a pretty big deal. And that's just the kinds of large websites. A lot of small-scale websites have a similar problem. And when you multiply that across the whole internet, it's quite a significant issue. But where does that really leave us? I mean, that all sounds a bit like on-page SEO. It's obviously bad for the user to have, we all kind of want to go and fix our broken links. Obviously, you should definitely go away today and check your own site, of course, because broken links are bad for the user, and not fixing them could mean that me or someone like me ends up stealing your links in the future. But today, I'm really going to be talking about the opportunities that exist as a result of link rot. Essentially how to do broken link building, and how to find these kind of dead URLs. Broken link building can be described quite simply as the process of finding web pages that are no longer online, seeing who links to these web pages, and then reaching out to those website owners and webmasters to encourage them to update the link. Usually it's to something relevant you have on your own site, or obviously you could go away and create something that fits the purpose perfectly. We'll be talking a little bit more about that later on today. So the website owner then gets to tidy up their broken link problem. You get a nice relevant link, and it's one of those techniques where website owners and webmasters are actually happy to hear from you. And that's, as we all know, anyone who does outreach, that's sometimes can be quite unusual. You get to build the links as well as obviously positively contributing to the web. So it kind of it's one of those things that one of those techniques in SEO that's going to have longevity to it. As I say, because the opportunity is so huge, there really are endless amounts of opportunity to be going after, which is more than could be said for a lot of other link building techniques. So I'll just show you this graph. This was back end of last year. We kind of crunched all of the numbers from campaigns that we've been doing, and the interesting thing was basically what we were looking at is the publish rate. So the publish rate to us is the metric that matters, and that's essentially the number of people who actually go ahead and publish that link. So that's ignoring things like response rate and all that kind of stuff. That's literally for for a broken link campaign. That would mean that for every 100 we contacted, 6.5 actually added a link to whatever it is what we were promoting. So it came out ahead of quite considerably ahead of other types of link building that we were doing, in terms of the outreach reason, if you want to frame it that way. So I thought that would be quite an interesting, thing to look at, which is that if you're going to focus on any kind of particular technique and you're looking for the best use of your team's time or your time, then broken link building really is that. As I said before, kind of webmasters are happy to hear from you, and I think that's the reason that you kind of get a higher, or we've experienced a higher publish rate than with other techniques. Interestingly, aside from the graphing, but broken link building itself, it does open doors to sites that wouldn't necessarily be available through other means. So because the webmaster is happy to hear from you, it's quite interesting to see very top end sites that are actually happy to accommodate your request of either updating the link and in most cases including your own. So the types of links that you get are not only, or can be higher end, but also you get a variety of link types. So irrespective of the prospecting method, for broken link building, there's quite a few different prospecting methods. We'll be covering just one. you'll find opportunities, and once you start digging into them, you realize that some of them are going to be resource page links, some of them are going to be links within blog posts, others are in forums, things like that. So the point is, you can build, with this one technique, you can build quite a varied link profile, which wouldn't necessarily be possible if you focus just on one other type of link technique. So, you know, say if you just focused on guest posts, your link profile is going to look quite samey, whereas with broken link building, you can apply a similar process, but actually be securing a wide range of different types of links. So before we go any further into it, I'll just give you a little bit more background on me. I wanted to kind of give you an idea that we're actively doing this, not just talking about theory here. So Skyrocket's a link building and web publishing business. We work with clients across the world. We mainly work with sort of digital-based businesses in competitive markets, and we do a lot of work with agencies as their outsourced link building provider. So we started in 2010, and we've now got 130 contractors and team members spread throughout 10 countries. Broken link building is only a small part of what we do, but we're currently acquiring somewhere in the region of 200 to 300 links a month directly using the methods that we're talking about today. So this gives you an overview of kind of what we're going to be covering today. Broken link building is quite straightforward when you break it down to a process. So we'll be finding the opportunities, qualifying them, looking at how we can get ourselves in there as the replacement, how to do the outreach, and then obviously counting the links at the end of it. So these are the tools that you'd kind of need to do the process that I'm going to be talking about today. So number one would be Google. Two, whatever spreadsheet you like to use, spreadsheet software you like to use. The Majestic bulk link check, Domain Hunter Plus, or Check My Links. We've kind of got both because anyone who's used them before, I'll obviously talk about what they are, but as anyone who's used them before, they're basically the same thing, but they both vary in reliability, so it's always good to have both. And then the Wayback Machine, so that's archive.org. Again, obviously, I'll be looking into it a bit more later on. There are obviously quite a few tools out there that allow you to automatically find broken link opportunities. So the Broken Link Finder at brokenlinkbuilding.com is a good example. It does have some limitations, which is why that we haven't kind of built a process around just that. You know, obviously our process is slightly more manual than you would get with a, you know, effectively a push button method of prospecting that Broken Link Finder offers. But we've just found that, you know, if you use a tool like Broken Link Finder, number one, the prospecting definitely has a learning curve, and when you're paying per prospecting phrase, it can obviously become quite expensive to figure out. And more crucially, the tool itself is definitely kind of a black box, so you can't really get the level of customization once you start really getting into broken link building, and we often surface like far more opportunities by doing it manually, and in many cases it was the difference between us finding opportunities in a given market or for a given client project, and not at all, you know. So that's no disrespect to the tool or the people who created it, because it can be quite handy in certain situations if you're doing like a quick bit of prospecting. But what I kind of talking about today and what we've built at Skyrocket is more of a replicable process. You know, it is a manual process, but as I say, it's helped us to surface the maximum number of opportunities. There are, again, obviously other tools. Same, you know, for example, within Ahrefs, you can surface broken link opportunities. You know, say if you type in a kind of an old authoritative site, you know, like a large government website or something like that, you can often find dozens, if not hundreds, of broken links within that, and then obviously you can go off that way. But like I say, we're just going to cover the one method of prospecting today. You could spend all day talking about the different ways that you could find broken link building opportunities. Okay, so we'll talk about finding them. So obviously the first step, as I say, there's dozens of methods and endless ways to combine it. The truth is that you'll get better at spotting opportunities the more that you do it, and I think the way that you combine the opportunities is can often mean you get really lost in the depth of the internet. You know, there are so many broken link opportunities out there, obviously because there's so many websites out there that you really can go on and on. Even on very fine strands of topics, you'll be amazed at how long you might be able to prospect for if you think kind of laterally and, like I say, combine different prospecting methods. It really is absolutely insane. So the Google forms the basis of our prospecting. I've said it quite a few times before in other sessions I've done and blog posts and things, that Google's a really fantastic link prospecting tool. You know, they've organized the world's information, so why wouldn't we take advantage of that in the form of you know, using search operators to kind of find what we need. So the first step is what we're really looking for is resource pages. These are the places where links go to die. You know, even the most dedicated webmaster won't regularly check the links they added to their resource page, you know, last week, let alone, you know, 3 years ago. So it really is a you know, a kind of a rich vein of links. If we can find authoritative resource pages on a, you know, a particular topic that we care about, and you can go through, and as I say, I'll show you that later on, how we can find broken links within these resource pages. So we'll talk about the prospecting phrases. At the most basic level, I mean, really, what I didn't want to do is give you kind of, I suppose, a phrase you can go away and directly use straight away, because I think that's quite limiting. What you really want to be doing is experimenting with the search operators themselves. So what we typically do at the most basic level, as I say, is to have a topic keyword, and then, you know, with the combination of kind of in URL or in title and an additional qualifier. So whether that might be a particular type of site, you know, like an EDU, or a location, or, you know, something of that nature, to whittle it down slightly. I think a lot of advice you see with prospecting phrases, you know, kind of search operators, is to go really granular, and I would say the opposite. Like, you know, to go really broad. I would say the opposite, and to go quite granular to start with, because very often you'll find things that, you know, are a really good fit for whatever piece of content you're, you know, looking at promoting, or whether that's, you know, your specific area of business. You'll be amazed at how many opportunities there are that are really specific to what you're trying to do. So, for example, we found, you know, product level pages that have appeared on clients' competitors' sites. You know, that those pages are now dead. You know, we can reach out to 50 or 60 people that previously linked to a competitor's product page, and we've got, just so happen to have, an almost identical product, you know, over on our client's page. So I would definitely start really granular, and obviously work your way out as needed. I mean, the broader you go, obviously you are going to get shed loads of opportunities, but obviously they need much more qualification, and the reality is they then often open up other strands that you'll then have to go off. So like I say, you can really go on forever with prospecting, and I think it's especially when you're just trying to kind of get something off the ground, it's important to just start granular, like I say, and then work out as you need more opportunities. So, you know, say for example we did this one, so homeschooling. You obviously bang that into Google, you'd see something similar to that. What we're then doing is, well, actually, as a quick aside, I mean, I haven't included in the bottom there, but the related searches at the bottom of the search results are often like a really rich vein of ideas for more prospecting. So it's a really good way of increasing the number of prospecting phrases you have. So as I say, yeah, so we've got the list there. What we do is kind of work our way through the resources. So you may just decide to do the first 5, you may do 10, you may do 20. I mean, however you think is necessary, determined by obviously the number of links that you're looking for. So what you want to be doing is, obviously, then you open up the pages. Each one individually, as I say, is a relatively manual process. Now this is a screenshot from Check My Links. So this is one of the 2 tools that I mentioned. So you've got Domain Hunter Plus and Check My Links. So they're both add-ons for the Chrome extensions. And what you just have to do is literally open up the page, and you can click, run it, and it'll generate something like this. You'll see here that we've got 8 links basically. So it's checked all 165 on the page, and there's 8 potential ones to investigate. So what we do is kind of run through that. You know, the full search results, as I say, you're going to go through 5, 10, 15, 20 pages, whatever. Check them all individually, and then what we're doing is essentially adding them to a spreadsheet. So you've got the resource page they came from, the broken URL that's been found, And then what we're doing is running these broken URLs through the Majestic bulk link checker, and that generates obviously a link count for you to kind of, then it helps with qualifying later on. Now then what we would go and do is use the Wayback Machine on archive.org, and you can go back and see a previous version of a page. You know, for example, say that was one of the ones, the broken links that we found on that first time schooling one. You can then see what it used to look like. So Home Ed Mag is obviously a website that previously existed and now is currently dead, and you can see what the page looked like when it was live. And obviously that's helpful in the qualification stage, because you can determine whether or not it's going to be a good fit for if you're promoting, you know, an alternative to that. So obviously once we've got our, you know, kind of list of potential opportunities, it's going to be about qualifying them. It's definitely, again, a manual process, but something that requires probably a more senior member of the team, or someone who's at least got their brain switched on at the time, because it's quite difficult, I suppose. You can't just literally go down and say, well, you know, there's this number of links, that, you know, anything above this number of links we're going to go after, because really what you will be looking at is obviously, is there enough links, but things like intent of the piece itself, and whether or not you can make a like-for-like swap. So by like-for-like, you know, do you have something already on your site, or could you create something already? Could you create something to use that would directly replace this page that has now died? You know, or could you create something, or do you have something that matches the intent of behind that piece? So, you know, say there's a guide that's helping people to you know, stay safe if they're working abroad or something like that. You know, if you've got a piece that focuses around that, then, you know, you could easily do a like for like. Equally, if you've got you know, a piece that covers you know, like I say, working or staying safe or working abroad, but covers only a specific area, that, you know, you could still match up the intent of it. So the intent of the person who published it, or the person linking to it, was to get a certain piece of information out of that article. You know, could you still provide that information? That's the general gist of kind of what we're really looking to do. On the topic of enough links, obviously only you can really determine what is going to be you know, enough for you to go after. What I will say is it's definitely a numbers game. You know, you really do need quite a lot, particularly if you're going to be going after, you know, you're going to go produce a piece of content. What you really want to be doing is looking for a broken link opportunity that's got significant numbers, so, you know, kind of 50 plus, or you know, one where there's multiple opportunities that tie together. That's really what you're looking at, because it is a numbers game. You know, broken links they're not just you know, you're not just going to be able to turn around and get a link from everyone you email, obviously, as with all other link building techniques. But broken links in particular, you're going to find a lot of dead sites, you know, kind of dead sites linking to other dead sites. You're also going to find a lot of people who are saying they're no longer updating that page. So you really want a good number to go after, particularly if you're going to invest in a piece of content or an asset of some description. When I say enough links as well, I mean, we're mainly looking at the opportunity directly, but you can also often dig deeper around the opportunity. So, for example, you may find a particular page that's dead, and if you do a bit of digging using, again, you could use the Wayback Machine and Archive, or you can go through Ahrefs or Majestic. You can do a bit of digging, and you may find that the whole section of the site that page sits on is dead, or, you know, the site itself is dead. So you may initially see an opportunity that's got 3 links to that particular page, but actually if you do a kind of bit of digging around it, you find that there's 1,500 links if you start combining that with the section of the site or the site itself. We've often found opportunities that are then effectively the kind of breadcrumb into the much richer ground, and so that's why we always certainly all members of my team are encouraged to basically put every broken link they find there, even if there's just one thing. You know, it's almost like a flag that allows us to investigate a bit deeper, basically. So once you've kind of qualified what you're looking for, it's then really about the replacement. You know, what you're going to be reaching out to the webmasters with. So as we talked about, again, it's a kind of could you offer a like-for-like piece? Straight swap, that's obviously the ideal scenario in most cases. It's very easy to get people to, I say very easy, easier to get people to update from one site to the next if the content is of similar quality and covers the same topic and matches up nicely. The other way you could look at it is to do something like an update. So, for example, a timely piece of information. So, health advice might have changed over the 5 years since a particular article was published, and that article has been left to go offline. You might be able to put together a piece that covers the latest medical advice on that particular topic, and obviously then you can reach out. And again, that gives you kind of a further angle at outreach stage, because you're offering to then not only help them with their broken link problem, but ensuring that they're giving out the most up-to-date information to their readers. The other way to look at it is to perhaps look at a different format. So could you do something that could you make an infographic out of something that the guide itself used to be text-based and was quite difficult to digest, and you've kind of digested it and made it into a 60-second quick scan poster-style infographic. That's often quite an effective way of doing it. Again, it's like another value add at the outreach stage. Another thing we've done is looked at how perhaps we can make something more specific. So if you can't make a straight like-for-like swap, you might be able to offer advice that's specific to a certain group of people. Say for example, advice related to diabetics on a certain topic. So travel advice relating to diabetics. So things like making it more specific, well, again, it helps. It can often help at the outreach stage. And finally, you kind of got a related resource. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is definitely going to be the one where you'd have to have a seriously high number of prospects for the numbers to kind of back out at the end of it. Because if you're reaching out to someone, yes, they'll be relatively pleased to hear from you in terms of helping them to update their broken link, but there's kind of no fundamental reason that they'd link to you. So say for example you reach out because they've got a link to a guide on grammar that's broken, and you happen to have a guide related to spelling, for example, or whatever. So it's closely related, but at the same time it doesn't match up like for like. You're kind of really dependent on the theory of reciprocity, of people then turning around and going, yeah, you know what, thanks for that, I've added the link here. It can be quite difficult to encourage people to do that. So as I say, if you're going to go down that route, you definitely need fairly significant numbers of prospects to be going after. Obviously, once you've determined what you're going to put up, so whether that's just matching up existing content or producing something else, you're then going to have to come to actually outreaching. It's certainly can be easier than other forms of outreach, as it can be a lot more. There's definitely a formula to it, and it's definitely a numbers game. The whole thing's a numbers game. If you look at just before we did the session today, I kind of had a look at going back to the prospecting. I had a look at the last 1,000 prospecting phrases that tasks that we went through, and of those, only 30% yielded anything that we could then go after. So at every stage in this process, there's it's definitely about hitting the volumes, so that later down the required number of links kind of make their way through. So as with anything, outreach is definitely a numbers game. If you're going to try and do broken link running with 5 prospects, you're screwed. If you're thinking in slightly bigger terms, it's definitely quite scalable, as I say, because there is definite formula to it. So if we go back to another one of these graphs, it's the graph should actually be for email length, which I believe I might have somewhere else. Apologies about that, just wrong order. How the email length affects publish rate. So this ties into the outreach, because obviously what we're trying to say is you need the kind of elevated pitch, if you like, if you want to put the jargon on it, keeping it short and to the point. So nailing very quickly why you've emailed them, what the issue is, and what you'd like them to do. That's the kind of crux of what you need to be getting across. What the chart shows is the publish rate, how it's affected by the length of the email. So if you keep them really, really short, you tend to get a higher publish rate overall, and obviously that's what you're really aiming for when it comes to something like broken link running, where it is very much about hitting, reaching out to a large number of people to kind of get the numbers back out at the end of it. If I go back to what we really want to be looking at is, again, going back to that, the other thing I kind of wanted to get across was that even even though it's much their publish rate is much higher than other types of other outreach reasons, other types of link building, it's still obviously a relatively small number. You will get people who will happily say that they're in fact, saw on Twitter, not long before Christmas, where people kind of saying, "Oh, I can't believe you'd be bragging about getting 6.5% publish rate," when they're talking about getting 20 to 30%. And I think it just depends on the type of campaign you're going to do. We see anything from 5 to 20% publish rate, but obviously as an average across the board, it definitely is a numbers game rather than the type of outreach where you're looking to really build significant relationships, or you're trying to reach 20 people and you need all 20 people to link and all that kind of stuff. This is much more about building a process that you could then reach out to quite a few people, because obviously then you know that you're going to get X number of links back. And that is pretty much me done.